Oh, hey, sweetie. Yeah, no, that little box of knives we found when we were cleaning. Yeah, I was just taking it out to the garage like you asked. Yeah, no, I didn't want it to be in the way. It's just a few pocket knives. It's not that many. Look, just a couple in there. Always complaining. You have so many knives. You don't need more knives. I don't know what the big deal is. So obviously this is not just a collection of knives. And I wouldn't even say this is a collection. I'm not really a knife collector. I'm a knife hoarder. The difference being that a collector would probably curate their collection, maybe collect specific knives or type of knives or brands. A knife hoarder like myself sees shiny, sharp things and just wants them. I have either purchased knives, been given knives, swords, axes, spear, because I like them. I think they looked cool at some point. I thought I needed it. Now obviously there's too much junk on this table to go through every item. So what I'm going to do is sort this out and then just show you some of the highlights of the hoard here. Recently I've been working a lot at eliminating things that I don't need, trying to simplify my life and trying to reduce the amount of clutter and just unnecessary things that we own. This was the next step, was going through the knives and stuff that I owned and eliminating things that I don't need. So what I've done is I created two piles basically. Things that I would like to keep and things that I am not going to keep. So a little tip, when you are trying to clear through things in your life, whether it's stuff in your garage, clothes, books, anything, start by setting out some boxes. Get a large box and mark that as your get rid of box. And then have a smaller box that you mark as your keep box. That way when you're sorting through things or you're cleaning through your garage or your closet or your bookshelf, you keep less things. So that's the approach I took with all of this stuff. So let's take a look over here. This is the things that I'm not going to be keeping. All of this is swords, machetes. They're the type of things you find at flea markets that you can buy for really cheap online. The only thing that I've ever done with these is slice up some water bottles and watermelon. I can eliminate all of that. In the box, I have all of the knives that I don't use or don't need or that are kind of worthless. I have a bunch of knives that are still in boxes that I bought because they were really cheap and was thinking I'll buy all of these knives and I'll stash them places and it'll be, good for prepping to have all of these extra knives stashed away. They really aren't very high quality knives. I did have some of these, I think one of these Imtex in my survival bag, and it might have worked to start a fire. If this was all I had, I could make it work. But I have a lot of knives, and these are things that I don't need to keep. So I've also got some axes and things in here. These I bought for really cheap also, the same time I bought all those knives. And I've used these one time. They've been sitting in a box for 10 years. Used it once. Blade got destroyed. Not going to use these. Some other things that are in here are just impractical things, like a Batman pocket knife. Maybe it looks cool. Completely impractical, though, for actual use. And then there's some things that are really just garbage. Like a knife, the handle broke, and I taped a stick on as a handle. There's no reason to keep some of this. It's just really garbage. So this whole box is just knives that I don't use, have never used, or they're cheap or impractical knives that I don't need to keep. So let's take a look at the knives that I am keeping. So the knives that I'm keeping are knives that I use, or tools that I use, or they are knives that I actually bought because I wanted to collect them. So a lot of this is tools that I use. So I have axe that I use camping. This is an Ontario Spax that usually goes in the car as kind of a rescue tool. Ontario kukri machete that I use for chopping brush around the house. I've taken this camping. I took this when I traveled out of the country. There's also some knives here that are more like tools. So some camp knives, hunting knife, skinning knife. So these are knives that are really more tools. Those are things that I would take with me camping, or I might put in my fishing box or with my hunting gear. There's a few things that are more collection type things, like this kukri. I really like kukri knives and kukri style knives. So I do have a couple of kukris that I don't really use, but I bought these with the intent of collecting them. This is an old Boy Scout camp knife from back when the Boy Scouts were the Boy Scouts, and back when Boy Scouts were allowed to carry camp knives like this. So just an old collector's item, I guess. And then we have some knives that are more like carry knives. So some knives that I might carry both as a tool and as maybe a self-defense knife. I sometimes carry a fixed blade knife. Most often now, if I'm carrying a fixed blade knife for self-defense or just as part of my EDC, I'll carry either a clinch pick or a K-bar TEI. And I do still have a couple of swords. These are just replica swords. They're not valuable. They're not sharp. And this set I've kept because these were given to me as a gift when I was in Japan. I visited a family when I was over there and got to see some of their history and tsubas from their family swords. And then as a gift they gave me a set of replica swords. So these are more meaningful than they are useful. So it's just a set of swords that I'll keep, that I just more of a decorative item. And then this box over here is pocket knives. Some of these are just cool different types of pocket knives that I like the style, or they were kind of fun. And they're things that I'll just like to have in my collection of knives because they're unique or a little different. And a couple of these are just some old knives that I got from my grandpa when I was a kid. So there are a few of these that are really more nostalgic than anything else. That's really reduced quite a bit. I've cut that massive pile down to just some knives and tools that are either items I want to keep as a collection item, or it's a tool or something that I'm actually going to use around the yard or when I'm camping, or it's a self-defense item. So I've pared my knife collection down quite a bit. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button. Helps me know who's watching. Leave me a comment down below and tell me how many knives you own, and if you have the same problem with not getting rid of knives that I have. If you're not subscribed to this channel, think about hitting the subscribe button so you can see any new videos that we come up with. Till next time, see ya.